Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice podcast. It's so great to be with you. I'm Dr. Foojan Amy, psychotherapist, author, and the originator of the awareness integration theory. Our conversation in this podcast is about what matters most in our life: our minds, thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. I have good news for you. Our latest book, Intentional Parenting, is out for you. A practical guide to awareness integration theory. This has been published by Cambridge Scholarly and with my co-authors. Wonderful, beautiful ladies, Dr. Nicole Jaffari and Dr. Eileen Manukian. This book, Intentional Parenting, it's available for you and you can get it from Amazon. What's important with this book, it takes you through step by step, not only the theories, interventions that are useful from the awareness integration theory, but also from different stages: your infancy, toddler, school age, teenagers, even young adults who might still be at home for with you, and how to be with them, how to do parenting, very intentional, and 4 different stages of life, which is very important. So I hope you get it. It's we're excited. We're really excited that this book is out. I'm also excited today to have Amy Eliza Wong with me. She is a certified executive coach who has devoted more than 20 years to the study and practice of helping others live and lead on purpose. She works with some of the biggest names in tech and offers transformational leadership development and internal communication strategies to executives and teams around the world. We will be talking about her latest book, Living on Purpose: 5 Deliberate Choices to Realize Fulfillment and Joy. Isn't that a perfect guest for this podcast? I thought so. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm positive you're going to enjoy our conversation too. Subscribe to this podcast. Tell others to subscribe. Share it with others. Go to my YouTube channel and connect with me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and connect with me through my website, foojanzane.com, or any of the social medias. You can also, if you wanted to work with a self-help book, we can go through the awareness integration theory on your own and enjoy it with journaling. And we've got an amazing research on this, which has minimized depression and anxiety and excelled self-confidence and self-efficacy. Go to get my book, Life Reset: The Awareness Integration Path to create the life you want. And you can find that in Amazon, or you can find it in my website. So share with me, email me, share with me your thoughts and how it has helped you, the book has helped you. I love hearing from you. If you have different topics, you want me to bring on a guest, you just want to share with me your love, just contact with me. So without further ado, here she is, Amy Eliza Wong. Hello, Amy. Everyone, Amy Eliza Wong. It is so nice to have you with me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so delighted. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I want us to talk about your latest book, Living on Purpose: 5 Deliberate Choices to Realize Fulfillment and Joy.
Yeah.
So what got you to want to do this?
Well, I've been fascinated with all things consciousness studies and just the bigger questions about life, why we're here. Starting at a very young age, I was really quite spiritual, started meditating rigorously at 15 years old. So just very into what it means to be a thriving human. And the first part of my life, I ended up in the tech industry. So I majored in mathematics from UC Berkeley and was quite technical for a good 10 years. This was after college. And that was fine, but there was a part of me I just knew I wasn't attending to. And after my first child was born, massive breakthrough, kind of breakthrough moment, went back to school and got my master's in a completely different field just because it was fascinating to me. Had no idea what I was going to do with it. Got my master's in transpersonal psychology. Now, little did I know that those two fields together really lend themselves perfectly to the field of coaching. Now, I had no idea that I would end up doing this work, but coaching really did find me in the year 2010. And, I have been in this field now for over a decade. And I'll tell you, I feel like I live a miracle every day in the hundreds and hundreds of conversations I've had with various folks from all walks of life. It became so clear to me that there were some pretty fundamental things that we could shift in our perception to really unlock our ability to live our best life. And so I knew exactly what the book was going to be in 2014, but I knew that it wasn't time I wasn't ready to write it. I was still accumulating research and stories. And it was really in 2019 that I'm like, okay, I got everything I need. It's time to put this book out there because this is going to help people.
And you say that this book is an indisputable map showing a clear way out of self-sabotage and suffering and into a life lived on purpose.
Yeah.
The best version of ourselves.
Yes.
So you talk about power of deliberate choices.
Yeah.
And you say that you've all been pretty much going in a wrong way about it. And it's not figuring it out. It's about feeling it out.
That's right.
Share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was one of the biggest ahas that I personally went through. And a lot of that was, after my first child, he's now 14, but after he was born, I had this massive wake up moment. And the insight that hit me was, oh my goodness, I have been going about this search for fulfillment all wrong. It's not about figuring it out. It's about feeling it out. Now, really what this means, it stems from this rather universal truth that everything we want as humans, everything we think we want, whether that's a new job or it's to start a company or to retire or a relationship or a new house on a hill with a view, all of that stuff, we don't want it for the sake of wanting it or for the thing. We want it because we think it's going to make us feel a certain way. And that thing is a proxy for a desired feeling state, but we never really take it all the way. And the reason for that is I really believe it's because of how we are conditioned growing up. We go to school and we're told, go get good grades so you can get into a good college and get into a good college so you can get a good job, and you want to get a good job so you can make lots of money, and then you can make lots of money so that then you can be happy. And so we place all of our trust in this, what I call like the formula, just kind of figure it out, follow the strategy, follow this formula so that you'll live a great life. But we're never really asking ourselves, well, what is it that I want to feel? And is what I'm up to, is that a direct path to that? Because what that big wake up moment for me and what I help all my clients through is oftentimes we'll be chasing the thing by figuring it out, oftentimes forsaking the feeling, because we haven't really just what is it that I want to feel? And so bringing that into awareness, wow, what is it that I want to feel? And just that right there, all of a sudden is going to shift your perceptual horizon, where opportunities and possibilities and options that weren't visible before, now all of a sudden become visible. And so you're able to navigate in a more powerful way.
So for everyone who's listening and watching this, I think what I'm hearing from Amy is not that you just go with, lack of impulse control and whatever you feel. What she's really saying is
It's like, grab that cupcake instead of the apple. Go for it.
I know. This is the first thing that came to my mouth, to my mind, is like, I'm just going to go open refrigerator and put whatever I want in my mouth.
That's right.
But what you're really saying is stop the shouldism concept. And you talk a lot about the shouldism and what you're shoulding. And so look at, it's not like let go of your wisdom. It's looking at the essence that pulls you through, and it's sharing with you that what you really need, your body, your emotions will take you toward it and say, these are the things that will make me happy, versus the society's tells me what to do and I got to do that. Now, there's also this balance here, which I want you to share about, is this balance of, obviously the society will tell us what to do because, and if we want it to be successful in some level, we got to incorporate to be the person that I want to be. And I say this because obviously I work with a lot of teenagers and young adults. I think, there's a wisdom that life just kind of like slaps us in after a certain age, but around teenagehood and young adulthood, where we're really trying to find our identity, finding what we're passionate about, to want to build a career or our experiences toward that. And then there is this maybe imbalance about, going after just what I have pleasure and forget our responsibilities that life also brings us. So can you share a little bit about putting these two together and still working with our intention?
Yeah, because this is such a big, beautiful conversation, and so much here we could dive in to, and this is where, I focus so heavily on the concept of choice in the book, and particularly deliberate choice, because choice is really everything. And the sum total of our choices dictates every aspect of our life, the quality of our life, our experience. And we kind of get that. And, we do our best to make choices that serve us, but, we're constantly battling. What do I choose this over that? Do I do this over that? And then we think it's a battle of willpower. And then we wonder, there's so much here. And I would say, to really, truly live the life that we are born to live, it really requires the ultimate choice that we want to really address first and foremost, so that all the other choices are rather not easy, but they fall in line, is the choice that really represents the relationship with ourselves. And the reason this is so important, and again, like I said, this is our big conversation, but the reason I want to talk about this is because that relationship we have with ourselves. So what does that mean? What is it that I believe to be true about me? What is it that I know to be true about me? What beliefs do I hold? How is it that I regard myself? That self-relationship, how I regard myself. I mean, we could just say straight up, it's self-love. That relationship with self forms the primary lens that we look out through to the world, that's going to give rise to everything that we perceive, thus interpret, and think, say, and do. And so if we want to if we want to really get to a place where it's not hard to choose, I'm going to use that example, not, to choose an apple over a cupcake. Now, does that mean we choose an apple every time? No, that would suck. Of course we want a cupcake every so often, right? But in order to get to that place where it's easier to identify the choices that would serve our highest good, and then to choose those things that are of our highest good, it really starts with going to the ultimate choice, which is, what's that relationship that I need to look at with myself? Yeah.
And I'm also hearing you say, and if it's not matching what you're really meaning, tell me, but I'm also hearing you say that the responsibilities of life that are there, I can choose them versus be in them with what you call like sluggishness. And, if there's a part that I look at something that I got to do as a chore and I don't like it and it feels like a should, you can still choose responsibility and aspects of responsibility which suits you, because obviously If you don't, you're not going to feel good either. So it's more like, if you just avoid responsibility, ultimately, you're not going to feel that good either.
No, that's exactly right. That's
Yes.
exactly right.
So it's
Yeah.
like bringing those two together, and whatever is in front of you, choose it, versus feeling that you are, you've been shooting in it, you've been pushed into the should, versus this is my next level and this is what I got to do.
Oh, that's yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so many of us operate from that word should, right? You should make your bed every morning. You should get more sleep. You should call your mom more. And it just, it just feels bad. You feel guilty and burdened, and it never feels great to use it on ourselves, right?
It ruins the moment.
It does. It absolutely ruins the moment. And, I think going back to this question about, teenagers, like, oh, I should study and I should do this and I should think about my future. Well, the reframe here and the opportunity is, and I really dive into this in Living on Purpose in the book, like, why is it the worst word in the English language? And in large part, it's the reason it's not really effective is because we don't realize it, but what's happening is that we're focusing more on avoiding negative consequences by using the word should than by actually focusing on what we actually want. And so that by using resistance and focusing on negative consequences, it's going to drag us down. Now, there is a flip side to everything that we're looking at. And so a powerful, like if you say, I should pay my bills, or I should, nobody really wants to sit down and pay their bills, but we don't want to be a delinquent human. We don't want to, have a high, we don't want to be in debt, and we don't want to have a bad credit score. But we could say something like, well, you know what? I could pay my bills right now and be released for the weekend and actually have fun. And so we can look at it like, oh, I could versus I should. And so to make it an active choice versus a burden, and really in focusing more on what is it that I want? Well, I want to be free, and I want to be responsible, and I want to feel good. Well, when you're focusing it on that in that way, it's like, oh, well, yeah, because I could pay my bills right now, and then I don't have to think about it for the rest of the weekend. And so it's just a simple shift in perception.
You say in your book, the doorway to everything you really want is inspiration. And you talk about synchronicity and the power and the purpose. And you have a 3-step to work through. One is accept the concept of synchronicity, act on inspired thoughts, and honor sluggishness.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of what I have found and what I've experienced and what I work with clients and with groups, part of the magic of life is really leaning into that hit of inspiration, right? Where we get this idea of like, oh, this is a great idea. Oh, I want to, I want to do that. And it's, there's a way in which we're going to confront stuff in our life, and we're going to get this breath of like, oh, this is a great idea. Now, that's feeling it out. When we feel for that, and I say, it almost feels like, that feeling where someone will suggest something, or maybe a book comes across your awareness, or a conference that's like, you go, and it's like the breath got knocked into you, like that feeling, that's inspiration. And when you really listen to that and follow it, even if your logic is like, well, does this really make sense right now? Like, does this actually going to add up? See, that's figuring it out. Like, does this work out for the strategy, for following the thing? When we follow inspiration, what happens is all of a sudden things start to kind of fall into place, which feels kind of magic, but it's not. It's just, we could call it coincidence. But in my book, I call it synchronicity. What's synchronicity? It's that feeling of flow that has a sense, like it's a bit more of a higher order to it. It's not just happenstance. There's a bit more of a purpose to it. And it's by virtue of you really listening for that, because that feeling of inspiration is the path of least resistance to the path of most abundance. Now, as you do this, you're listening for inspiration. You're also going to feel, as you look at certain other options in your life. You might look at, like, for example, you might be at Barnes and Noble in the magazine section, and you're just perusing all those magazines, and you look over at one magazine, and let's just say it's all things horses, and you go, because you really have a thing for horses, but you don't really entertain that love because it doesn't make sense for your life because you're busy. But you look at that and you're like, oh, and you get that feeling. And then you look over and then you see the Harvard Business Review and you see some topic that's like, oh, like I should read that because my employer is really important. And then you feel kind of heavy. Now, is it that you can feel those two feelings? Now, one is very generative, life-giving. It's very expansive. The other feels a little constrictive. Now, is there a right or a wrong to whatever you choose? No, either way is fine. But if you want to follow the path of thriving, listening for and following the feeling that goes, all of a sudden, that's where ideas and possibilities are going to happen. So that feeling of sluggishness really is simply you telling you, yeah, you could go forth, you could do it, but you're probably not going to get the return in the investment that you put forth because you're in a very different receptive state here. Now, if you need to cover that topic at some point, it's going to cross your path and you just have to trust that it will. But in that moment, to choose the inspiration over the constriction, that's really where things start to change.
And that is so enrolling also to others. When you talk about synchronicity, somehow this type of an inspiration that's just like, if it's natural to you, when it's being shared with others, it pulls people in. Have you noticed?
Oh, it is so contagious in the best way. Just people light up, eyebrows get big, smiles are huge, the body language increases. Like, yes, totally.
I've really experienced that in different projects where, although I try to get everything that, it's inspiring to me, but, some of the stuff that you do, it's part of the shouldisms, like, well, it's part of the game that I got to do this part because it's part of the bigger picture, but I don't really like this part. I just like the bigger picture. So, but I've noticed that every time you come to enroll others in your ideas, or you're just chatting and there's like, well, how are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this project, this project, this project. And the ones that I'm really inspired with, and like you say, the feeling is in there, the passion is in there. You can see everybody else's way of relating to that. And like you said, it's contagious. It just expands, like generative, as the word you use is, it just expands, and it's so inviting for people to come in. And that's where a lot of the collaborative aspects also happens.
Absolutely. I mean, that right there, gosh, there's so much here. It's the collaborate. I mean, because we're kind of raising the vibration here. And, as humans, we're in constant communication. Nothing's happening in a vacuum. And I do a lot of communication coaching because that to me is not just a passion, but it's an area of expertise, because this medium of communications where everything is happening. Now, what we tend to forget is that we're not just transmitting words. Our job is to transmit a feeling. And we do that via the vehicle of these linguistic packets called words. And so the quickest way to transmit a feeling is to feel it first. Whatever you're feeling, the other people are going to feel too. And so when you've got that buoyant, energized, inspired state and you're talking, other people, they're going to just follow right along. Now, the neurochemistry of that is one in which it's going to optimize you for your greatest thinking, for more imagination, for more creativity. And so there's so much in that, sharing of the goodness. So following your inspiration and doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everybody else around you too. Yeah.
Yes. In your book, you share, choose to know that it's always working out for you. And then you have some steps.
Yeah.
Acknowledge you are in the shit moment. Choose to stop tolerating and make a decision to compose your internal conflicts, and imagine a future as far as it feels good to you. And then I love this part. Come to the present and think of your situation as all the past ones that you just kind of have been and done, got pictures, videos, and you're done with them. And so it's like, instead of getting caught into this, you transpose yourself in the future, look at yourself in the future as you looked at the past. It's like, done, I'm already covered. We got it.
Yeah.
And then come back to the moment that you are. And act as if you already know you got this and it's going to be over.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I'll tell you, this is one of my truly, it is such a deeply rooted practice for me. It's not even a practice. It's just a way of being. And this is truly the path of freedom, because what we're talking about here is life's happening to all of us. It's happening with us, for us, to us. And there's not many things that are certain in life, except for a couple things. We're all going to die. We know that. And we know for certain that there's a lot of uncertainty, that nothing really is for certain. And we're fairly clear that life is a mix of joys and tragedies. And, when you look at this existence that we're in, it's predicated on the phenomenon of duality, right? We don't have birth without death. We do not have light without dark. We do not have up without down. And so we live in a universe of duality. And so we grow by virtue of joy and pain. We are going to experience both the positive and the negative. But we, as humans, we only just want to focus on the positive. We're like, this is really what's wanted. And then we say, well, all the things that hurt, that's not wanted. And it's not working out for us. And I say, well, if we can get to this place to recognize that things are going to happen, and then you can decide, you know what, both are serving me. The stuff that I chose, that's easy to say that's serving me because I chose it. But the stuff I didn't choose, like the mistake, the failure, the tragedy, that actually, and I have not found one human that can't look back on a tragedy and go, yeah, it sucked at the time, but I got this, I got that, I know who I am. And so with the wisdom of this practice is we will be in our now moment, and we can look back at the past and look at the crap and the shit that happened to us and go, yeah, you know what, that really sucked. But if I know this, and I know that, I know who I am, and I've learned these things, and I know I'm resilient, and I wouldn't be who I am now if it wasn't for that. And so at some point in our future, we always look back with a sense of appreciation and understanding. So what this process that you just described is, when we find ourselves in a shit moment, which we will, it's shitty, it stinks, it's awful, it's painful, it's whatever it might be. Instead of actively resisting it, going, gosh, this shouldn't be the case. Oh, it's not working out for me. Why is this so hard? To say, well, you know what? At some point in the future, let's imagine 3 years from now, I'm living my best life. Like, I'm going to look back at this and I'm going to say, sucked, but it kind of had a part to play in getting me there. And so really what this is about is to notice those shit moments when you're in it, and switch the perspective to say, how might this be on purpose for where I'm headed? And we immediately convert resistance to appreciation. And when that happens, so much more possibility emerges in how we can move with our moments and transform through them with a lot more joy and a lot more innovation.
This brings me, I work a lot with trauma, and I work with people who have terminal illnesses. And it's interesting. People get very, very afraid of cancer, rightly so. But most of the people who I've worked with, they've had tremendous amount of traumas or have had some sort of ongoing chronic and illness. You keep hearing the same thing you said, which is, it made me choose a whole different lifestyle. It changed my priorities. Or if the priorities were the shoulds, and putting other people ahead of you. And even if a healthy lifestyle always look like, well, I know I got to do it. I know it's a should thing. I got to do it, but I'm having too much fun right now. When something like that happened, they began choosing a healthier lifestyle. They walk, they eat differently. And it's very different. This time it's not like, oh, damn, I got to do it. It's more, I'm choosing it because now I'm choosing living.
Yes.
Instead of dying.
Yes.
Where before it felt like, I already know I'm living. So why should I suffer with this? Where now it's like, well, you might not. So they're choosing living and everything they got to do in order to live better. Because another choice is like priorities changed. Something like you said, uncertain showed up, and I get to choose again and again. And the word you use, deliberate choice of, at one point I can get that anything can be gone. So as I'm looking at nothing is sustainable or, permanent, then I can choose completely different in how I want to deal with life.
Yes.
And I think that's powerful when we look at it.
Oh, beautifully said.
Thank you, everyone. Living on Purpose, Amy Eliza Wong. This is the book. You can get it in Amazon. Where else can they get it?
Barnes and Noble, Target has it, really anywhere books are sold, you can find it for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about purpose, because we talked about feelings. We talked about how to connect with yourself, how to look at all of that. We talked about let go of the should and whatever it's there that you know that you want to experience, choose it powerfully with all of your inspiration. And, kind of like trust yourself and honor yourself, honor what's coming up from here and move forward. But we talk about live purposefully. Can you share what that word means to you as you've been explaining it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really ties in beautifully with what you were saying about how earlier, just how, sometimes we'll have a tragedy or a trauma and we wake up and we harness choice in a new way. And so for me, like, I love talking about purpose as a noun, no doubt, like as what is my purpose here on earth. But really what this book is about is really purpose as an adverb, being on purpose, like as a state of being, which is to really wake up from autopilot, just as you were describing. It's waking up from that state where I've just been making habitual choices and been just kind of going through the motions and deploying survival mechanisms and redeploying patterns, and really kind of waking up to how is it that I've been operating, and how can I harness choice at the level of perception. And this is really what's key about my practice and in the book is, yes, choice at the level of action is important, such as apple versus cupcake, but really what this is about is choosing at the level of perception. How am I going to interpret this? What am I going to make this mean? And so purpose in this regard is really about being purposeful in how we want to show up and what we want to make our moments mean, and how we want to interpret the stuff of our life. And that's really what the 5 choices are about, is to orient us in a way that we can make very purposeful frames through which we can make sense of all the stuff that happens and thrive unconditionally. That's what this is about. Yeah.
Another, some chapters of your book also talks about looking at the sabotage. I invented a new psychology model, awareness integration therapy, where a part of that is integration, which is bringing, cleaning up all the closets in a sec. And part of your book also, one chapter really looks at when you experience sabotage, to not just dismiss it and, try to avoid it or push it, or just figure, oh, let me just figure out something and don't worry about it and let me just go forward, because if you don't handle it, it's going to keep coming back as an obstacle in your life.
That's right.
So it's how to go back, how to look at it, how to bring it, integrate it into your system from your strength, and then, moving along with that. Can you share a bit about that piece?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And there's, a big premise in the book is that, we're going to have feelings and emotions, and we are going to experience things on that emotional scale, whether it's joy all the way down to anxiety or depression or whatever it might be. And instead of doing what a lot of us do, which we tend to want to numb or sedate or control away the negative emotions and really just try to do whatever we can to feel good in a moment, it's really to recognize that whatever we're feeling in a moment is really information. It's information on how we've been focusing. And so instead of, trying to be positive at all costs, it's really saying, I'm going to let my feeling be my guide here, because guess what? it's all about feeling anyway. Why? Because that's what we want. Everything we want is for a feeling. So why not kind of come back to this feeling state that I'm feeling more often than not? It's, how am I feeling in this moment? How am I feeling in this situation? And letting that feeling be the indicator for how that it is that I'm focusing. And so if we find ourselves feeling great, then keep going. Great. Then there's nothing left to do. But anytime you find yourself feeling that tinge of insecurity, the pang of anxiety, the heaviness of procrastination, and remember, sluggishness and that's still information. That's good information, but it's there to prompt us to take a look. Like, what is it that I'm standing for in this moment? What is it that I'm believing about myself in this moment? And we use that signal of feeling. We use it as a cue to, is there a way I can reshift my focus right now so that I can overcome this pattern that hasn't been serving me?
It's very important what you said about how to bring everything together, because then it makes your choices from a place of wholeness, makes it from a place that you're complete. Because if you are not integrated in that sense, what I've noticed a lot with my clients is, you will make a choice from one part of you which didn't suit the other parts of you.
Sure.
And then other parts will show up as like, hey, what about me? Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have this inner conflict between the couple of different needs, which will be showing up, and then there are different feelings that are needed, right? So
yes,
I would have the desire and the feeling of feeling accomplished, confident, and want to go. And then in order to have the feeling of accomplishment and confident, obviously these are all the tasks that I got to do in order to achieve something and to get that. And then there's another part is that I just want to relax. I do not want any stress.
Yeah.
And I want the emotion of and the feeling of comfort.
Yeah.
And sometimes the two are both amazing, but they're
exactly
in here, as although I'm listening, but there's listening to two different parts which absolutely want different things.
Oh, and don't we all feel that, on a Monday morning where I want to sleep in, or I should go to the gym. I want to, yeah, it's all that. Yeah. We, many of us feel that conflict all the time. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's the way to really work with this in a holistic, integrated way. I love how you said that. That's because that's really what it's about. I introduce the concept of a stance. And so a way to really to meet these seemingly conflicting things in a way that we can make choices that make it all work is we have to zoom out. So instead of just looking at this level of, I want to be accomplished, or, I want to relax, we got to zoom out. And then the big question that we want to ask is, what am I ultimately standing for here? What is it that I am ultimately standing for? And just by asking that new question that is at a higher elevation, now my values come into focus. Now reality and my wisdom have a seat at the table where they're able to say, right, you're standing for well-being, and you're standing for joy, and you're standing for health. And you know what? I think both can be true here. So why don't we take a look at this project, and instead of doing all of it like you thought you wanted to, let's map it out, create some milestones, and then go for a walk. It's a beautiful sunset, and, go with your neighbor. And so just by asking a new question, by zooming out and asking, what am I ultimately standing for here? You're going to see your situation in a whole new way and come up with a solution that no doubt you're going to be able to bring both together. But it requires a better question about what's happening.
Yes. Now, Living on Purpose by Amy Eliza Wong. Amy, anything we haven't touched upon so far that you really want everybody to know?
It's when it comes to the process of personal development and transformation, I love, most people are really like, yeah, that's a good thing. I want to attempt this. And there's this idea that it's a lot of work and it's really hard. And, and what I propose is, while it can feel that way, it also can feel effortless. It can feel fun. And it really depends on the frame. And something I focus heavily on, particularly in part 3, is that for most people on the journey of personal transformation, they like the conversations, they get it, they're up for it. And for a lot of people, they get that they're making choices that don't serve them. And they get, like, for example, the one of the ultimate choice that really holds us back is self-limiting beliefs, such as, I'm not good enough, I'm incomplete, I'm inadequate, I'm unworthy, I'm incompetent, or whatever shape or form. And all of us have entertained, those fears at some point, those limiting beliefs. Now, for most people on the journey for personal self-development, they get on some level, yeah, I get that I'm kind of choosing that I've got this imposter syndrome. I get that I'm choosing that I'm not worthy, or I'm not as good as my colleagues. I get that I'm choosing that. I don't know how to choose otherwise. And so a big part of this process is not just recognizing what are those beliefs you're holding that you either know or you don't know and what you're choosing. It's really getting to that place of accessible choice. Because, how many times have you heard on the path of life, hey, self-love is everything. You want to love yourself. Unconditional self-love is where it's at. I mean, it's almost like a cliche. And you're like, well, how the heck do I do that? Like, I get it, but it's not coming from here. And so what this book is about, it's really a journey. It's a roadmap to get to that accessible choice. Because to get that you're not choosing to love yourself, but not know how to, that's maddening. And so using a lot of logic and some of the social neuroscience, we get to a place where it's like, I totally get that I'm whole and complete. And now I know how to choose it. And I get that it's a process. I get that. But to derive that organically, that's where it's at. And so that's really why the roadmap has been spelled out in the way that it has been in this book.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the time you gave us.
Yeah.
And a beautiful book. Amy Eliza Wong, Living on Purpose, 5 Deliberate Choices to Realize Fulfillment and Joy. And you can also find her at alwaysonpurpose.com.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with me. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.